Why are you laughing? This isn't funny. I can't do this anymore. I'm leaving.
His hands shaking as he held a folder of documents that represented his last chance at survival. He was 45 years old and he was broke. He was a man who had once stood at the top of the world, or so he thought. He had the cars, the house in Buckhead, and the woman the world called a goddess on his arm. Before we go back to the beginning, before I show you exactly how David lost his soul and Ifeoma found her empire, do me a favor. If you believe that karma always finds the right address, hit that like button right now. If you love stories where the underdog wins big, comment the word justice below. And most importantly, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. We are building a community of people who value character over gold, and we want you with us. But as he watched the Gulfstream G700 descend, $100 million bird of prey, he realized he had never actually known what power looked like. The engines roared, a sound like a predator claiming its territory. The stairs lowered. And then he saw her. She didn't come out with a trail of paparazzi. She didn't come out posing for cameras. She stepped out with the quiet, terrifying grace of a woman who owns the sky she just flew through. She was wearing a tailored cream suit that probably cost more than David's first house. Her hair was pulled back, revealing a face that hadn't aged a day, not because of surgery but because of peace. David's heart stopped. His lungs refused to take in air. He whispered a name he hadn't dared to speak in 7 years. Ifeoma. She didn't see him. Why would she? You don't look at the dust on the ground when you're walking toward a waiting motorcade of black SUVs. But David remembered. He remembered the night he told her she was too plain for his new life. He remembered the way he laughed when he told her that a man of his stature deserved a trophy, not a homely woman who smelled like home-cooked stew and old books. Now he was the one in the dirt, and she was the one in the clouds. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, you are in the right place. In this channel we believe in one thing: the truth. We tell the stories the world tries to hide. We tell stories where the humble rise from the ashes like a phoenix, and the proud, those who think money makes them God, are brought to their knees by the very people they stepped on. We tell modern African folk tales for a world that has forgotten that your value isn't measured by your Instagram followers or the brand of your shoes. Your value is in your spirit. And today's story? It is the ultimate lesson. Is a story of a betrayal so deep it should have broken a woman, and a comeback so legendary it changed the skyline of Atlanta forever. Now let me take you back to when David thought he was a king and Ifeoma was just the plain woman who made his crown possible. David and Ifeoma were the golden couple of the Nigerian community in Houston before they moved to Atlanta. But they weren't golden because of money. They were golden because they had a love that felt like an anchor. They had met at a small university in Lagos. David was the loud one, the visionary, the man who could sell ice to an Eskimo. Ifeoma was the quiet one. She was a math genius. Woman who could look at a spreadsheet and see a symphony. When they moved to America with $500 and a suitcase full of dreams, Ifeoma worked 3 jobs. She cleaned hotel rooms during the day, worked as a night shift data entry clerk, and spent her weekends helping David build his logistics company from a laptop on their kitchen table. She was the one who wrote the business plans. She was the one who balanced the books while David was out networking. She was the one who wore the same pair of $10 shoes for 3 years so David could buy the high-end suits he needed to look the part for investors. She didn't mind. She loved him. She saw his success as their success. "You're my backbone, Ife," he used to tell her, kissing her tired hands. "Once we make it, I'm going to put you in a mansion and drape you in diamonds." By their 10th anniversary they had made it. The logistics company, D Global, was worth $40 million. They moved into a stunning home in a quiet, wealthy suburb. But something had changed in David. The diamonds he promised didn't go to Ifeoma. Instead, David started spending more time at the gym and more time at late-night meetings. He started looking at Ifeoma differently. She didn't wear heavy makeup. Didn't follow the trends. She preferred her natural hair and comfortable linen dresses. To the world she was elegant. To David she was boring. The turning point was the Atlanta Tech Gala. It was David's big debut into the ultra-high society circles. Ifeoma had spent weeks preparing the data for the presentation David was giving that night. He was proud. She wore a simple, beautiful green lace dress, a nod to their roots. When they arrived, the room was filled with trophy wives and models. And then, he saw her. Bianca was a 24-year-old supermodel from Brazil who was the face of a national jewelry brand. She was all height, all glitter, and all ego. When she looked at David, she saw a new money mark. When David looked at her, he saw the validation he had been craving his whole life. That night, David barely spoke to Ifeoma. He stood near Bianca, soaking in the way other men looked at him with envy. A week later, David didn't come home until 3 a.m. When he walked in, Ifeoma was sitting at the dining table with a cold plate of food she had cooked for him. "We need to talk," David said, not looking at her. He didn't even take off his coat. "I know," Ifeoma said quietly. "You've been seeing her. The girl from the gala." David laughed. It wasn't a guilty laugh. It was a cold, arrogant sound. "Her. And I'm grateful," David said, pulling a legal envelope from his pocket and sliding it across the table. "That's why I'm giving you the house and $500,000. It's more than enough for a woman like you. You can go back to Houston, find a nice, plain man and live a quiet life. But D-Global? That's mine. Bianca's going to be the new face of the company's charity wing. She fits the image." "Don't." "The image," Ifeoma whispered, her voice trembling. "You're leaving your wife of 15 years because of an image." "I'm leaving a Toyota for a Ferrari, Ifeoma. Don't make it harder than it needs to be." He walked out that night. He didn't look back. Within a month, the divorce was finalized. David had hidden his offshore accounts, and because Ifeoma trusted him, she hadn't looked at the fine print of the post-nuptial agreement he had asked her to sign for tax reasons a year prior. She didn't get the house. She didn't get $500,000. She got a $50,000 settlement and a 10-year-old car. David married Bianca in a $2 million wedding that was featured in Vogue. Ifeoma watched from a small one-bedroom apartment in a part of town David wouldn't even drive through. The Nigerian community was shocked, but many turned their backs on her. They wanted to stay in David's good graces. They wanted invitations to his yacht parties. They called Ifeoma pitiful. They said she let herself go, and that's why her husband strayed. Ifeoma sat in her small apartment, surrounded by boxes. She had two choices. Could go back to Houston and hide, or she could do what she had always done. She opened her laptop. She didn't look for a job. She looked for a problem that needed solving. For the first year, Ifeoma lived on ramen and grit. She took her remaining $50,000 and did something David would have called stupid. He didn't buy new clothes to try to look rich. She didn't go on revenge dates. He bought a high-powered server and started coding. She remembered a flaw in the logistics software D-Global used. A flaw she had pointed out to David years ago, but he had ignored because he was too busy buying Bianca a new Range Rover. Ifeoma knew that if she could create an AI-driven algorithm that predicted supply chain disruptions before they happened, she wouldn't just have a company. She would have the keys to the kingdom. But she was lonely. The silence of the apartment was deafening. One rainy Tuesday, Ifeoma was at a small, dingy laundromat. He was folding her simple cotton shirts when she noticed an elderly man struggling with a heavy bag of clothes. He was wearing a tattered coat and shoes that had seen better. "Let me help you, Papa," Ifeoma said, stepping over. The man looked at her with piercing, intelligent eyes. "I can manage, daughter." "I know you can," she smiled. "But you shouldn't have to." She helped him with his laundry, and when they were done, she bought him a coffee from the vending machine. They sat on the plastic chairs, the smell of detergent in the air. His name was Mr. Elias. He told her he had lost his wife years ago and worked as a janitor in a building downtown. For the next 6 months, Ifeoma met Mr. Elias every Tuesday. He brought him home-cooked jollof rice. She listened to his stories about the old Atlanta. She didn't tell him she was a math genius or that she was building a tech empire. In her bedroom, she just treated him like a human being. One night, Mr. Elias noticed Ifeoma looking tired. Her eyes were red from staring at the screen for 18 hours. "What are you building, Ifeoma?" he asked. "A bridge, Papa," she said. "A bridge to a life where no one can ever tell me I'm nothing again." "A bridge needs a solid foundation," Elias said. "And you have one. You have a heart that hasn't been hardened by the world's cruelty. That is the rarest currency in this city." Meanwhile, David's life was a circus. Bianca was spending money faster than D Global could make it. She demanded a $5 million renovation on their home. Demanded a private jet for her modeling tours, which usually just involved her and her friends partying in Ibiza. David was stressed. The supply chain flaw Ifeoma had warned him about was starting to leak money. Shipments were getting lost. Clients were angry. But whenever David tried to talk to Bianca about it, she would pout and say, "Don't be so boring, Davy. Just make more money. You're the king, remember?" David loved being called the king. So he took out loans. He leveraged the company. He thought he could outrun the truth. Then came the day of the National Logistics Summit. Every major player in the country was there. David arrived with Bianca on his arm, her dress so tight she could barely breathe, her diamonds blinding. He felt like a god. Until the keynote speaker was announced. "Ladies and gentlemen," the moderator said, "please welcome the founder of Nexus AI, the woman who has revolutionized the industry with a 99% accuracy rate in global shipping, Ifeoma Mensah." The room went dead silent as a woman walked onto the stage. He wasn't wearing diamonds. She was wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal suit. Her skin was glowing. She looked powerful. She looked expensive. David's glass of champagne slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. "Ife," he whispered. Bianca looked at the stage and then at David. "Who is that?" She's actually quite striking." "That's my ex-wife," David choked out. Ifeoma didn't look at him. She gave a 20-minute presentation that made every CEO in the room stand up and cheer. By the time she walked off that stage, she was the most wanted woman in the tech world. David pushed through the crowd to get to her. He was sweating. Ife, wait." She stopped. Her security team, 2 massive men in black, stepped forward. Raised a hand to stop them. She turned and looked at David. "Hello, David," she said. Her voice was like silk. "Ife, you look incredible. This company, Nexus AI, why didn't you tell me? We could have partnered. We could have partnered." Ifeoma tilted her head. "David, you told me I was a Toyota. Why would a Ferrari partner with a Toyota?" "I was stressed, Ife. I didn't mean those things. Look, D Global is having some minor issues. Your software, it could save us. For old time's sake." Ifeoma looked at him, and for the first time she felt nothing. No anger. No hurt. Just pity. "My software is already licensed, David. To your 3 biggest competitors. Signed the deals this morning." David's face went gray. You're trying to destroy me?" "No, David," she said, stepping closer so only he could hear. "I'm just doing what you told me to do. I'm living. And you should go find Bianca. Think I saw her flirting with the CEO of Maersk near the bar." She walked away. That was 3 years ago. But that wasn't the end. Because the world has a way of stripping away the fake. Until only the real is left. And what happened to David over the next 3 years? It wasn't just a business failure. It was a total collapse. David lost D Global. He lost the house in Buckhead. And the moment the money ran, Bianca was gone. She didn't even pack her own bags. She just sent an assistant to pick up her furs and jewelry and moved into a penthouse with 22-year-old crypto billionaire. David was left with nothing but the debt and the memories of the woman he had thrown away. Which brings us back to the tarmac. Back to the private jet. David is standing there holding a resume. He is applying for a job as a logistics manager for a new global conglomerate called the E Group. He doesn't know who owns it. He just knows they are the only ones hiring. The woman in the cream suit, Ifeoma, stops at the bottom of the jet stairs. Looks at the man by the fence. She walks toward him. David's heart is pounding so hard it hurts. Faith, please. I have nothing. Living in a motel. I just need a job. I know the business. Ifeoma looks at him. She looks at the resume in his hand. Then she looks at the man standing right behind her. It's Mr. Elias, the janitor from the laundromat. Except he isn't wearing a tattered coat. He's wearing a bespoke Italian suit. He is the chairman of the board. Elias. David gasps. You were the janitor at my old building. No, David, Elias said, his voice deep and resonant. I own the building. Just like to see who people are when they think no one important is watching. You used to walk past me every day and spit on the floor near my shoes. But, Ifeoma, she bought me coffee when she didn't have enough money for her own lunch. Ifeoma looked at David. She took the resume from his hand. You want a job, David? Yes, he whispered. Anything. She ripped the resume in half. I don't hire people I can't trust with my spirit, David. You told me I was plain. You told me I was a reminder of the struggle. Well, look at me now. And the result of the struggle. And you are just a lesson I've finally finished learning. He turned to Elias. Let's go, Papa. We have a board meeting. They walked to the SUVs. The engines roared. David stood in the dust, the smell of jet fuel in his nose and the weight of his choices on his back. David thought he was trading up, but he was actually trading his soul for a shadow. He left a diamond because he thought it was just a rock, and he chased a piece of glass because it sparkled in the light. But wait, the story doesn't end there. Because there is one more secret Ifeoma was carrying. A secret that would change everything for David, Elias, and the future of the empire. Do you want to hear what happened when David discovered the truth about Ifeoma's new partner? And what happened when Bianca tried to come crawling back once she realized who actually owned the city? I will continue the script, but only if you want it. Hit that like button, and if we get enough comments saying continue, I will drop part 2 immediately. This is the part where the payback goes from legendary to nuclear. Subscribe so you don't miss the conclusion of he left his plain wife for a supermodel. Years later, he saw her stepping out of a private jet.